So if you file an answer, you're going to be in the top 5% already, which is good. The top 5% is usually an A in most curves, so you should be good there. Hey everybody, John Skiba here from the Consumer Warrior YouTube channel. And in this video, I'm going to give you an overview of what the debt collection lawsuit process is like. I think it's very helpful if you have a kind of big picture idea of where the lawsuit is, where it's going, and some of the steps along the way that you can use to defeat those debt collectors once and for all. But if this is your first time here to my YouTube channel, please click subscribe, check on that little bell. That way you'll be notified each and every day when I put out new videos that'll help you deal with serious debt problems. All right, in this video, I'm going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to share my screen with you here so you can see this flow chart that I put together. Like I said in the intro, if you've been sued with a debt collection lawsuit and you're not familiar with this, you're not an attorney like myself, then it's something where it can be very confusing as far as really where this thing is going. And I found that it's very helpful just to have kind of a big picture view of where you're at in the lawsuit and what kind of steps you can expect along the way. Now, you need to understand that what I'm providing you here is what the process looks like in the state of Arizona, where I practice as an attorney, but there's going to be similar steps no matter which state you're in. They may not line up exactly like this, and there are different rules as far as like deadlines and dates and things like that. But I think it's helpful just to have a general idea of where it's going. Now, this flow chart that I put together, this is for Arizona, like I said, and it specifically deals with justice court cases, where a lot of these debt collection cases are filed. Justice court in Arizona deals with lawsuits for the amount in dispute. The amount that they're suing for is under $10,000. Whether you're in Superior Court in Arizona or whether you're in justice court or something similar in your particular state, almost all cases will start with this initial step of the complaint and summons being filed with the court. Something that's a little confusing is that the complaint is actually filed, the summons is issued by the clerk of the court, and then they will engage a process server, constable, sheriff, whoever does it in your state to actually serve you with a complaint and summons. Now, the service happens when they come by your house and put it in your hand, or sometimes they get permission to mail it to you or post it on your door or whatever they do. But the first step is when they actually filed that complaint, they get the summons from the clerk of the court, and then they take step number 2, which is right here, which is the complaint and summons gets served to you. Now, once it serves, that triggers the amount of time as far as the deadline goes for you to respond to it, to file the written answer to the court. Most people don't take this first step. The statistics that I saw in a recent study show that over 95% of consumers that get sued at the debt collection lawsuit don't file an answer to it. So if you file an answer, you're going to be in the top 5% already, which is good. The top 5% is usually an A in most curves, so you should be good there. But filing the answer is just your response to the allegations and the complaint and the summons. Now, it's important that you look and find out how many days specifically you have to be able to file your response with the court. That information should be found on the summons. The summons should tell you specifically how many days you have to respond to it. For example, here in Arizona, you have 20 days from the day that they serve you. That's 20 calendar days, straight days. It includes weekends. I know there's other jurisdictions I've seen where it's 30 days, and I've even seen them they're shorter. That could be 14. So take a look at that summons and make sure that you hit that. Now, if you don't file an answer, if you just ignore it, it heads over here to the right of my flow chart where no answer is filed, and that's where you're going to see the default process start kicking into effect. Now, Arizona is a little bit unique. We have a 2-stage default process where there's an application for default that's filed. If you don't submit your answer timely, the court then gives you 10 more business days to file a written answer with the court. This is the court's way of saying, are you sure you don't want to file an answer to this lawsuit? And then if you don't do it, they'll file a motion for a default judgment, and the court will then enter the actual default judgment itself. That's very Arizona specific. That has a 2-part. In many jurisdictions, if you don't file the answer within the set time, the default judgment's entered almost immediately. Now, let's focus on the more positive, kind of responsible thing we're going to do here. We're going to file an answer to this lawsuit, and that's over here on the left-hand side of the screen. This is where initially the parties are going to be required to exchange some type of disclosures. Initial disclosures in most jurisdictions are automatic. You have to provide them. There's no, Perry Mason moment where you have surprise evidence and able to come running into the courtroom. You've got to disclose witnesses and documents and evidence and defenses. They've got to disclose their claims, who they're going to call to testify at trial. They've got to disclose their documents to you. All of that happens in a relatively short period of time. In the state of Arizona, that happens about 30 days after the answer is filed. Then the case can go into a discovery phase where the parties can propound written discovery on each other. Depositions can be taken. Things like requests for production of documents, interrogatories, interrogatories, requests for admissions. Those are written documents that go back and forth between the parties where this, information and documentation is actually gathered in preparation for trial. Now, in most jurisdictions, we'll go down to that third step there, which is the pretrial conference. I always say the pretrial conference is really when the court becomes really aware for the first time that this lawsuit is here. This is often done with the judge, and they'll look to see if there's any discovery issues that need to be dealt with. And often in like a justice court or a small claims court, you may even get a trial date pretty quickly right there with the pretrial conference. Mediation in Arizona in justice courts is required in a couple of the justice courts. The judges mandate it. Mediation is the process where they assign a third party independent mediator to see if there's some type of middle ground that can be reached between the parties. In Superior Court in Arizona, where the case is over $10,000, it's not mandatory, but the parties can request it at any time, and they will appoint an independent third-party judge to come in and try to broker a settlement in between the parties. So in justice court in Arizona, mediation is required. In just really 2 or 3 of the justice courts, the rest don't require it at all, but any party can request mediation at any time. Now, the second to last step here, the motion for summary judgment. If you've been sued by a debt collector, you can expect to get a motion for summary judgment. There's a couple practical reasons for this. One, most debt collection law firms handle thousands of cases, but they have relatively few attorneys. They cannot take every case to trial. A motion for summary judgment is their way of avoiding trial. Essentially, this is them providing a motion and their documents to the court saying, Judge, read the information here that we have and tell us if we win. Tell us if we're entitled to judgment. If you're required to respond to that, and it's more than a response like the answer to the complaint, because the answer to the complaint, you're really just admitting or denying what they're alleging. In a motion for summary judgment, you have to substantively respond. I have tutorials on how to do this, and frankly, on all of these stages over at Consumer Warrior University. There'll be a link below here if you want to learn about some of those tutorials, where I have forms and templates and things like that you can use. But the motion for summary judgment is super important. They know that this is going to trip most self-represented people up. They file it, 1, because they can't take all their cases to trial, and 2, because they know this is more difficult for consumers who are representing themselves to respond to. That's why I put together the tutorials, is to be able to help you to respond to it more substantively, but you can plan on it in every single debt collection case. You're likely going to get a motion for summary judgment. And then if you defeat that, the case will go to trial. Trials in debt collection cases are often done to the judge. They're called bench trials. However, in a lot of jurisdictions like Arizona, you can request a jury to hear your case, which can be an effective strategy sometimes because a lot of these debt collection firms do not want to take their cases before a jury. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos on the YouTube channel, you'll notice something that's not in this flow chart is the motion to compel private arbitration. That can happen at any time. You can ask the court to compel private arbitration and essentially take it out of this court system and allow you to litigate the matter in arbitration. That can happen. Really, my preferred time is to do that right up at the very top when the answer is due, just right from the get-go to let the court know that's what your intention is. So hopefully that gives you some guidance and a little bit of peace about what the process is. Like I said, if you're in the state of Arizona, I do free consultations. I'm happy to see how I can help you out with your debt collection lawsuit. If you're not, check out the link to the Consumer Warrior University. I have many templates, forums, tutorials that can help you as you fight back against these overly aggressive and often abusive debt collectors. Thanks for watching today.